Hello everyone, I think we can all agree that Overwatch needs healing. And I and many other people agree the best way to achieve that is a brand new support that really gives support players some oomph. And I have got just that to present to you guys today. So, we are going to begin with actually the method of attacking and helping allies this hero will use, and we're going to base it on some existing Overwatch technology, so it feels really possible this can happen. And that technology is the ammunition for Ana's rifle. It's a little metal canister with a sharp needle on the end, filled with either the lovely cell regenerating liquid or the somewhat not as lovely cell degrading liquid, depending on who she's firing at. So these things get flown through the air at, weapon fired speeds, thud into you, and forcibly inject you with liquid. So Ana's allies, it's gotta be weird, right? You're there shooting along and you get hit and you're like, I need healing. And then a few seconds later you're like, well, I just learned something new about myself. Thanks, Ana. Oh my god. So, that canister, right? That little metal canister full of that liquid. Well, what if we have this delivered in a radically different method? An almost alive one. You give that canister some legs, change the needle to a stinger, add some wings, give it a fancy little tech brain, and you've got yourself some flying metallic healing / death dealing bugs. You have a lot of them together, and you are packing one deadly swarm. I mean, you cannot tell me you've never wanted to do this to an Overwatch character.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Out of my eyes!
So, stay with me, because after this, you're gonna be buzzing. Ow! Oh. Who would use a swarm of these things? Well, it would have to be someone who doesn't want to fight themselves or doesn't like doing the dirty work personally. So we're gonna go for the scientist going a little bit, are you sure that's something you should be doing? I know you asked if you could, but did you stop to ask if you should? Type technology creation. In fact, that was a very similar case as to how Ana's rifle came to be. See, Torbjorn saw how the biotic technology was delivered in Mercy's staff and Soldier's floor thing, and wanted to weaponize that into a fireable form. And in essence, it makes sense, right? You've got Overwatch agents in the field, you can keep them alive from great distances. You don't have to get up close and put the medic in danger. You can actually save lives, well, safely. But of course, then the question raises, what if you turn this for more nefarious purposes and start forcibly injecting people with, well, the bad stuff, like Ana herself uses it for? And the thing is, you can take that even further, right? What is the advantage of a little tiny controllable insecty drone with this biotic stuff inside it? Well, imagine a situation where an avalanche or an earthquake and a building has collapsed, someone is trapped under the rubble, they're injured, and by the time you can dig them out, they will have maybe bled out, they might have died. Well, one of these things could very easily walk its way through the tight spaces of the rubble, get to the victim, and inject them with this stuff. So it actually has a basis of a viable medical application. But of course, you take control of these things and effectively sick them on people, you have yourself a terrifying weaponized version of it. And of course, this guy would be doing both. And I think he would have to be an Omnic, right? Because for two main reasons. One, imagine if the Omnic that created these hosted them within his own body. So you're playing him, and from your first-person perspective, you can see the arms and hands of this guy. Little compartments slide open, and these guys take flight from inside him, almost like he's the mothership, the hive mind, the controller of the swarm on a direct level. And number two, I think borrowing from Lynx in the comic, who has these antennae on his head that lets him interface with technology in a really unique way, what if this guy had installed some antennae that let him directly communicate and coordinate with his swarm of helpful / destructive biotic insects? Because it would take a robot mind to accurately micromanage on an individual level a swarm of hundreds of these, a delicate ballet of either great aid or destruction that a human mind just couldn't interface with properly. A human would either send them all to help someone or all to attack someone, right? There would be no individual grace and control, but an Omnic's mind working directly in sync with all of them at once? That is a scary tactical prospect. And how this guy got this technology and researched it and integrated it in himself is, well, however you wanted it to be. He could have stole it from Overwatch. Hell, he could have been working with them as a sign of solidarity between Omnics and humans post-war. And after Overwatch was disbanded, he stole away with some and has been working on it since and has now come out as he's completed it. I'd see him as more chaotic neutral, maybe chaotic good. His metal heart is kind of in the right place, but his circuits aren't exactly straight in his head. So how's he gonna use these little beauties? Well, he's gonna spawn, and he's got 200 of them. That would be the, air quotes, ammo count on your screen. You don't gain any, you don't lose any. You have 200 to work with. He would apply them to allies and enemies like Zenyatta does his orbs. You look at them, you click, and it goes to them. So this guy is definitely for people who prefer a little bit more of a tactical approach to a pure aim-based experience. So when you look at someone, you left click, your swarm starts heading towards them. 5 a second, fly over, land on them, and start doing their thing. Well, what is their thing? Each bot arrives at the enemy and will do either 1 health per second or 1 damage per second for an X amount of time. I think 10 seconds is fairly balanced, i.e. injecting its full payload of biotics, then returning to him, and then you get that one back, it gets refilled up inside you, and you can send it on its way again. So you look at an ally for 5 seconds, you send 25 bots, that gives them 250 health over the next 10 to 15 seconds or so. Same in damage for an enemy. And you compare that to other DPSs on the other supports, other health per seconds on the other supports, and it very much falls in line. In fact, it's slightly behind. But what this lets you do is look at injured, send a few bots out, look at an enemy a little bit, send a few on him, look at another one, send a few of the swarm that way. Okay, we got another ally who's under attack, our tank needs some help, I'm going to channel about 30 into him. Okay, cool, I'm getting some back from the first guy. We need to make sure we've got some on the enemy Genji, so he can't flank for too long, because he will be taking some damage over time away from his healers. And maybe the enemy team is about to engage, I've just got a feeling they are, so I'm going to apply a load of bots to my allies so they all start preemptively healing and will regenerate as soon as they take damage and this fight starts. Likewise, I can start funneling them into the enemy so that they might think twice, might hold off a little bit longer, lest they engage with some of their members taking some ticking damage. I can start stacking them up on the enemy Reinhardt because they just fly through barriers like people walk through barriers, forcing him to not just stand there with it up, start ramping up damage on him and forcing a reaction, controlling the flow of the battle a little bit with my swarm. And that right there is key. It gives you this control to spread them out in a way that makes tactical sense. So this guy would obviously have a really high skill cap, but I don't think that's such a bad thing. But it means we have our first proper damage over time character, and I think that's really cool. And the thing is, because he's an Omnic and it's biotic liquid, he couldn't really apply them to himself. So to that end, as a defensive, because I would give this guy 150 health and 100 shields, Tracer Squishy, because he does have a lot of potential power going for him, so he does need multiple weaknesses, but one weakness he wouldn't have is a defensive. If he gets flanked, attacked, he can have his shift, which would have a more potent effect the more bots you're currently not using. So again, feeding back into this real micromanagement focus. For every bot you have left, so let's say you have 100 out of 200, it applies a shield to you for 5 per bot. So at 100, you suddenly get a 500 shield. This would have a very long cooldown, of course, a real panic button. But the thing is, if you only have 100 bots left, then you're not really got that many doing things, and are therefore limiting your impact in the game for the benefit of being more unkillable yourself. So it's all about weighing up the pros and cons. This guy is a walking double-edged sword in many respects. I would also, because Mercy's new ultimate is amazing, and I think we need more flight-based mechanics added, because it's just too much fun to not. But it's not going to be direct, you just fly like Mercy does at a different speed. No, I'm actually going to use the gravity settings in a more practical move-based way. So when you use this, if let's say you have at least 50 remaining, they swarm around you and underneath you and cling to you and start almost thrusting. That I'm 24, that shouldn't be funny, but hundreds of things clinging to you and thrusting. It's late. I shouldn't record these when it's late. And for a few seconds, because they don't even need to thrust, they have wings. There's no thrusting required. This is derailed. I should probably redo this take, but sometimes I think you need to know that as perfect as I am, I do make mistakes. So they all cling to you, buzz around you, and start flapping their wings oh so very hard, and for a few seconds, you have quite lowered gravity. Doesn't stop your forward momentum too much, but they're basically giving you extra jump lift, so you can get some extra height and try and make a bot-aided leap to safety. Like, how awesome would that be on both a gameplay and a thematic level? So they've shielded you with their bodies and are trying to carry you away as effectively their robot queen. I love it. So for his E then, this is the perfect opportunity to have a blinding effect in the game that makes a lot of sense and isn't just totally broken. So it costs 10 of your bots to do, so again, you've got to manage if spending 10 on this is something that's worthwhile right now. You choose an enemy, look at them, how you apply all your bots, and then for the next X amount of time, again, numbers are always changeable, they have to see their screen with a swarm, well, swarming round it. And obviously, if you've got these little nasty blighters constantly flying in front of your eyes, you're going to be gapped, sure, but you're going to have an annoying time fully keeping track of anyone. Like, imagine trying to be Genji with this on your screen. It would be irritating as hell, and anything that can go towards irritating Genji is something that I am all over. So it's not too crazy from a whoa, mind-blowing mechanical new thing idea, but because of the context as to how it's being achieved, this swarming aspect, I think it takes on a very, very cool, worthwhile life of its own. So that leaves the ultimate. So, upon pressing it, you recall all of your swarm to you. This is a desperate last-ditch effort here, you know, where you've been backed into a corner. So everyone who is taking damage, being healed, being blinded, the effect stops. The voice line happens. A few seconds later, after a calm, well, then the storm begins. Every single member of the swarm bursts out of its compartment and starts swirling around the air in a thick cloud around their host. 100 of the 200 go towards giving him a 500 shield so he doesn't die immediately. The other 100 affect every ally and every enemy in range. I'd say it's about a half Zenyatta ulti range. All of the allies start healing for 100 a second, all of the enemies start dying for 100 a second. A mini Zenyatta and Reaper roll rolled into one, in what I think is a really cool merging of abilities given how it's presented in this swarm form, that has a kind of elegance that I think Orissa's borrowed mechanics sort of don't, but that might just be because I'm biased to my own creation. I don't know whether it would give him the kind of higher jumping thing. I don't know if that would be good or bad here. I want to leave that one up to you guys, but the visual intimidatingness of this is so cool. Just seeing a control point filled with a thick cloud of these insect bots, now that's kind of like, okay, I don't want to go anywhere near that. In fact, just imagining the voice line banter between this guy and the other heroes is interesting, because I imagine a lot of them don't want to be fighting, need help, feel this weight almost appear on their back, and then a few seconds later, as it stings them with the healing juice, right? Like, that's kind of a way to get supported by your, medic. So I really like that, it keeps the enemies away from the control point, and you would be obscured in the swarm, so obviously you'd aim generally for the center, but it wouldn't make it completely easy to just melt you down, and you'd have your allies throwing themselves in this vicious looking cloud because it will technically heal them, and that creates a kind of cool, I know I should, but I'm somehow not wanting to situation in your head, and I think it's fun to play with things like that. So the reason I like this guy is he is a support that has the capability of applying genuine pressure to the enemy team. Because of his ramping nature, the longer you let him do stuff, the worse you are. He's not super reactionary like supports sometimes have a habit of falling into. He has a real agency going for him because you can preemptively heal, you can preemptively apply some ramping damage where it's needed. You are super rewarded for having quality positioning and being aware of what's about to happen, when it will happen, being able to read the likely shifts in battle, and preemptively covering people, and that's something no other support can really do, outside of Zenyatta's shift on a single target, sure, but this guy is very much the I will fix the problem before it occurs on a team fight scale. Obviously he's not powerful enough to fully achieve that, but he very much can take the edge off a fight that's not even happened yet, and I think that's a really cool tactical ability to give in someone's hands. Watching someone who has mastered this character play would be like the symphony of insecty swarm that I described would be necessary with the Omnic mind interfacing with the bugs, and in that respect, the better you get at him, the more you feel in sync with your swarm, and doesn't that tie together right lovely nice? Alright, so you see where I'm going for with this character, right? You'd pick him alongside a main Mercy or Anna, right? He'd be the secondary role, helping you out, covering your weaknesses, and just adding a really cool dynamic to the game, because that's what I like, right? Adding something that changes how you play because they have them on their team, and adding something that really gives you a lot of fun options as the person controlling it, and this definitely does. You'd have to watch for the density of the swarm animation and how many characters it's on to judge whether he's worth trying to pick off or if he has enough left to have his shield, as a very simple example, but you can totally see the kind of decisions that this guy would have to make as the player and that you'd have to make when playing against him, and that's really satisfying. So let me know what you think, let me know if you like the look of this guy. We'll talk balance, of course, but at the end of the day, I want to know if you think he's fun from a mechanical perspective, and I do love that I think more than anyone I've created, he totally works within the world of Overwatch. I like you've enjoyed this. Oh, we need a new support, and subscribe for more. A good boy.
Rage gaming with the video flow, shenanigans in Overwatch, and his fans all know that every single thumbnail that this man makes without fail makes you do a double take, catching your attention with every verse. See, say that you need healing but you're at his mercy. Get it? Cause it's a pun. On his channel, that's one of the better ones. Widow is venomous, I see no end to this. Cataclysm's imminent when rage is in his element. Pandemonium is not familiar with irrelevance. Maximum Genji beam, oh so elegant. Jokes so funny causing you to cry. Editing is quality as the noon is high. Yo, concussion man, shoot to the sky. Cap it all off with a goodbye.